Hello and welcome to my home. I'm Josh Musikantow and I'm here today to talk about 113, the Twin Cities based new music collective responsible for the creation of the Twin Cities New Music Festival. I'll also be discussing a new work of mine entitled Yiddish is My Homeland, which is scheduled to premiere at this season's upcoming Twin Cities New Music Festival in the first week of March 2023. What was life like before 113? To be honest, I didn't really know what to do when I finished grad school. It was 2011, the heyday of the Occupy Wall Street movement. Even in the best of times, there isn't a lot you can do with a music degree, but this was not the best of times. I took a job working overnight at a condo for a company called First Service Residential, which I incorrectly assumed would be very temporary. In the meantime, I looked for whatever work I could get in music. I sent out hundreds of CVs for academic jobs, but never heard back. Occasionally, an odd job did come around. The first show I played after graduating was at an underground establishment known as Thug Mansion. While I can't reveal its location, I can say that while it might have been a true mansion once upon a time, by then it was a run-down, overgrown, and overcrowded cooperative where a large number of musicians both lived and performed, including the titular band, the Thug Mansion All-Stars. Within the interior could be found an odd cast of characters, as well as some animals, and a lot of clutter strewn about. As a quirky conservatory kid, I have to admit I felt a little out of place there. The first thing I was told when I got there was that I would probably be molested, which freaked me out a bit. When the show started, I was told to just start improvising on keyboards, which I did, with no idea about what was going on. The other musicians then came in following my lead, and then the front man started to rap. And while I don't remember all the words, I do remember the chorus quite vividly. It went, "Now point to your dick, point to your dick, and if you don't have a dick, then point to your friend's dick." I'm all for body positivity, so even though it was a bit of a surprise, I just went with it. True to the warning I received when I got there, a woman did try to rush the stage to get towards me, but was stopped. Well, okay, I thought. It's not what I expected, but at least I'm doing music. I didn't realize the show was being recorded. One of the band members was able to transcribe what I was playing. My improvisation, which essentially became the harmonic underpinnings of the song, without my permission, he learned to play it, and the band continued to do the song without me. For a while, it was something of a cult classic and was actually their most frequently requested number. I wasn't sure if I should confront them about the fact that they just copied my improv to make the song. I thought they should just have at least asked my permission, but on the other hand, I didn't exactly want to be known as the point to your dick guy, so I just decided to let it slide. Even though there are a lot of things I like about the underground scene, the locations are rarely ADA compliant, and you can't bring kids there, which means if you are a parent and you can't afford childcare, you can't really go. And the events are never advertised and usually very out of the way, so they're very hard to find. I think there were and are some good things coming out of the scene, but I ended up concluding that there were just too many barriers to entry for too many people. And what's more, the city actually ends up shutting down a lot of those venues. I've known at least three underground venues that were regulated out of existence by the city, and I'm certain there have been many, many more. So it didn't seem like a very promising way forward for me. After the Thug Mansion show, I got a referral from an acquaintance to do some arranging work for a Pops chamber orchestra. Even though I don't usually like doing arranging and I had pretty low interest in Pop's concerts, I didn't have a lot of other opportunities, so I said I would do it. It would be paid work at a fancy event at a reputable venue with a classically trained chamber orchestra. I figured it couldn't be worse than Point to Your Dick. Boy, was I wrong. I was taken aback when I found out the piece they wanted me to arrange was Song of the Gypsy Girl. Of course, the appropriation of Romani music within the classical music world is nothing new. Carmen still remains one of the most frequently performed operas of all times. I knew that it was supposed to be a community oriented event, so I'd still hoped that maybe there would at least be some kind of discussion around these issues. Eventually, I found out that it was even worse than I thought. It turned out they wanted to do the piece for a Halloween concert. I was so mortified when I found that out. None of the people involved seemed to have any awareness at all about how insensitive and racist this was. After that, I just decided to give up any hope of making money doing music. I asked for a transfer at my condo job from part time to full time, and I decided that if I was ever going to do music again, I would make sure that it was only for a project I genuinely was interested in. The only problem was I wasn't sure if the right place for my music even existed. I didn't belong in the underground world or the classical music world. I wasn't sure I belonged anywhere.
Scintillating scopes of sociant hopes, a skein of LP grooves elopes in a tone arm. A dangerous slackness, a vast blackness, stultified by hopes, howsoever small. Fizzling fusillade of S, dabbling in the diablerie of dappled moon flesh. Slowly, lonely, listening to myself whine, milking my emeritus status for all it's worth, but no longer a member of that tribe. I reserve a room under the name Felix Culpa, which incidentally means fortunate fall. A Yupik woman once confided in me that it's very difficult to whistle in English, which baffled me at first. If a Yupik woman wants is English, then a whistle baffled honesty. If honesty is a woman, then bafflement is an honestly absurd total. If total honesty is absurd, then absurdity is total honesty.
When I started talking with some of my fellow UMN grads that had also stayed in the area, we realized that we all agreed about what the problems with the local new music community were. We no longer believed we could place our faith in existing institutions to fix those problems. We decided if things were going to change, we would have to do it ourselves. And that's exactly what we did. We were all artists who would rather be creating than spending time doing administrative work, but we knew that it had to be us. We soon discovered we were more capable than we thought when we put our minds to it. That last clip you heard of my piece, Lisp, was from the first concert we did under the name 113, though we had organized a few other events prior to that. I feel like that concert was like an announcement. While other organizations were responding to the economic crisis by appealing to the lowest common denominator, we were going to do the opposite. We were going to be a group that cared about art and about artists, and that wasn't afraid to take risks. While we have grown and adapted in many ways, launched a lot of new programs from touring to festivals, recording projects, educational initiatives, that's definitely still true. We've stayed true to the core values that started it all. The title of my upcoming piece, Yiddish is My Homeland, is a quotation from Arne Thorn, the last editor of the New York-based paper Freie Arbeiterstimme, the Free Voice of Labor, which was among the world's longest-running anarchist newspaper in history, and was additionally the oldest Yiddish newspaper at the time it ceased publication. The work, for string quartet and two voices, sets to music a collage of Yiddish poetry by American Jews on topics of social justice as well as on the Yiddish language itself. While Hebrew was the holy tongue, Yiddish was the mother tongue of the Ashkenazim, allowing Jews across Europe to communicate with one another even if they could not speak the national language of each other's host countries. The titular quote is a very concise synopsis of what the Yiddish anarchists believed was the best way forward for the Ashkenazim, not Zionism nor assimilation into our host countries, but instead a vibrant and radical diasporism that transcended borders. I felt I had to respond to the occupation of Palestine, but I didn't want to write a piece telling the story of the Palestinian struggle because I didn't think it was my story to tell. Instead, I wanted to tell the story of my own ancestors in a time where Jews were not yet considered a model minority. I wanted to show a part of who they were and remind us, their descendants, of what we've lost when we made a devil's bargain with the West and turned our back on our history as a dispersed people. I'm so honored to have this piece scheduled to premiere as part of the Twin Cities New Music Festival this March. And there are also a lot of other wonderful pieces on tap for this season. We have so much footage from over the years that I could go on endlessly, but perhaps I've already taken too much of your time, so I will play for you one final piece. Thank you for tuning in. Your generosity and support makes it all possible. So please consider making a donation or buying scores from our wonderful catalog of publications or our wonderful album featuring the violin duo Gelland. I hope to see some of you at our events. Have a lovely holiday season.